Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some scroll saw work on this nice simple plaque, I love you to the moon and back. Now the idea is we're going to stick it down onto our 12mm plywood. It was left over from a previous project. And for sticking down we need to put on our painter's tape first. We just line that all the way, and then we will spray on some glue. Just spray that on like so, without the dust obviously. And then we'll stick that down, and all these inner cuts, the idea we're going to remove all the white sections, just leaving everything that you can see that is black. So we've got to cut inside these stars as well as the outside of the stars, and hopefully that will just leave that in place. Once we've cut it all out, we'll give it a bit of a sanding down, tidy up, maybe spray it black, gold, silver, whatever colour we fancy on the day. And then we're just going to fill in these centre stars with some nice yellow resin, just to break up the actual colours of itself. And that will basically be it for this project. So nothing overly complicated apart from the cutting side of things. Remember, because we've got to get these inside cuts, we will drill a pilot hole into each section. That just allows us to get the blade through and cut it round. Right, let's stick all this down first, get ready for the scroll saw side of things, and then we'll look at what kind of blade we're going to use today. Right, so we've stuck our template down onto the painter's tape. That just makes it easier to pull it off once we've cut it all out. And you can see from that, we've gone round and drilled all our little pilot holes into every section we need to cut out. It doesn't matter that you scuffed up the paper and stuff like that. Remember, we're going to remove all that, so there's no damage done there if the paper looks a bit too rough. And then on the back, quick sanding over, just get rid of those little bits that are sticking down. Now for cutting wise, before we start, I will simply cut a straight line off there just to make it a little bit smaller. But for me personally, I like to use spiral blades. Now spiral blades, the teeth run the full length of the blade, as you can see there. So they will cut in any direction. We can simply feed that blade through the pilot hole there and cut that circle out. Basically just by doing that. With the other two blades, there'll be a pinless blade. This is perfect for this kind of project. There's nothing on the end, pinless, and they're your more fancier saws that clamp on like so. Remember, your blade wants to feel smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. That way you know you've got it in the right way. And they also do a pin blade. These come on your more basic saws should I say, top and bottom. You might just get away with this. I'm just looking around. You will struggle to fit that one in there with a pilot hole because those pins will be in the way. And same up here with these smaller sections, so it'll be a little bit tight, but you might just make it work. Yeah, I think that's about the smallest one there, so you're not going to fit it in there because those pins are in the way. So pinless or spiral blades today. Right, we'll start cutting this one out and we'll see what it cuts like. We'll just take our time. We'll do it, speed things up, and you get a general idea. As we start removing most of the white section, it's going to be a little bit fragile, but hopefully, because we have done it on 12mm, and that's the only reason why, it's quite chunky wood, which will hopefully keep it all in one place. Okay, we're popping our Pegas number 5 spiral blade into these pilot holes. I always like to start from the middle and work outwards, and we can simply just start cutting this one out. Right, so I've cut a couple out already. You can more or less just see inside there, and they've cut fine, no problem. The only thing with plywood, you get what you pay for, so we might find the odd issue where maybe a little void or a little hole in one of these side sections, but we can easily fill that in with something, and we're going to paint it and stain it, so that's not going to be a problem. So as before, look, we fed the blade up through the pilot hole. We've got the tension right, we've got a nice ping ping sound, so we'll just continue cutting this out one section at a time, feeding it into those little holes as we go along. We'll speed things up a bit because once you've done 3 or 4 sections, it's basically going to be the same bit. Obviously, as we start removing more of this area, it's going to get a little bit fragile, but it is 12mm thick, so hopefully there are no pieces popping off or breaking. Right, let's continue and cut this one out. So that was our final scroll saw cutting done. So we can just remove the surround like so. I just want to keep hold of that for now. And you can see everything's all cut out nicely. Still in one piece. I'm quite happy. There was 2 little sections on here. I can't even remember where it was. I think there's one down here where the back section, if I can turn it around, that just started to come away, that piece. So I managed to get a bit of wood glue in there and we stuck that down. And I do believe there is somewhere else, and that's just the way of the plywood. You might find little voids in it, little bits are missing. But apart from that, I'm sure there's another one. I definitely put a bit of filler in somewhere. Can't even see it now, so that's how good it was. Maybe inside. Oh, inside there, look. You can just see inside that one there. If I turn it over, you get that to focus up. I've had to put a bit of filler in there and all. So that was starting to come away. So, but we've repaired all that. Took seconds to do. And so far, you can see from that, we've not had any issues. Now the next stage for me is literally just to pull all this tape off, revealing the wood underneath, and then we're going to have to spin it over, and you can just see those little nodules. That's the only thing with these spiral blades. You do get the rough section of the wood there. So it's just a case of going around. You can get a little file for this, just removing all those rough sections. It takes a matter of minutes. And for me, it's all part of the process. The side bits, there's no problem with those whatsoever. Just your little fluffy bits, we're going to call them, on the back piece. So it takes a little more while to clean them up. So the front section, literally going to peel this all off. Nothing too fantastic. Hopefully we can get a corner piece like so. Just take our time. Let's not get carried away at this stage. You can see from that, which will be able to just start pulling all that off. I won't bore you with this section. We'll just take my time. Once I've peeled all this off, we will come back and I'll tell you what I'm hoping to do with the next piece on this. Slight little change of plan. Right, with just that last little bit of tape to remove. That came off no problem. We didn't have any issues with that. That painter's tape is nice for just putting on first before you put your template on. Now originally this would be more or less it for the router, the scroll saw side of things. Basically, we would put our paint on or stain. And like I said previously, I want to fill in these stars with some yellow resin, just to make it a little bit different from a standard plaque that basically everybody else would do. But as we've gone along, I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to route out the tops of these stars, literally just to lower them down by a couple of mil. When you look at your plywood, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers on this. I want to come down about 2 layers, which looks maybe about 3 millimeters. If we get one of our CNC bits and bits here, we can put it against the side of that, and these are 3 millimeters. So I would say top 2 of those will be 3 millimeters in depth. So I'm literally going to skim over the top of these, just so it gives a bit more of the lettering at the front, and the stars are sunk down at the back, if that makes sense. It's just something that just literally just come into my head now. It wasn't planned at the start of the project. This might totally backfire. So the idea is to get our router and skim over the top of those stars now, and literally just to lower them down so the letters stand out a bit better. It might be too much and then these might all break off. Well, there's only one way of finding it. So that's the reason why we've left our surround. That just allows us to pop that back on, if I can get it the right way. Put that back in there like so. And that just gives a little bit more space now for our router to run on when we come to do these stars on the edges here. We just take our time. I'm just simply going to pop in one of these end milling bits. I use this on all my videos. Nice small one there. We've got to be a bit delicate with this. Just see that there. There we go. We'll pop that in. We'll set it to literally 3 millimeters, or to at least the second layer out of the 7 layers there, if that makes sense. And just start removing all those stars. I've gone round with a pencil just to give me the basic shape there. If you can just see there, we want to try and follow the circle round of the 2 O's there. Same on there and round here. We'll make that letter come around like so, like that. So we just remove these letters, these stars, nice and steady, and we'll hopefully see, we'll make it just a bit different from a standard plaque or template or whatever you want to call it. Right, let's put we'll pop this in our little CNC bit. They do have a small shaft, these, so you would need an adapter collet, but I mentioned that in my other video, and I've already got one set up in the router there. Look, with the adapter inside. We've got the right depth, so we're literally now just going to start removing the top layer or 2 from the stars. Let's do that now. Okay, so we lowered those stars with the router there. You can more or less see from that. Just subtle enough, but just to say we've made that a little bit more effort. Now the only trawl I had with 2 stars, this one here, actually broke off the corner section, one of these star bits here. But lucky enough, we had plenty to play with, so I literally routed that down a bit further, and that's still in place nicely. And I think I had the same issue with this one, the top layer, one of the layers broke away. But we got lucky and managed to it. So therefore we've got different depths there. So we've got 1, 2, actually 3 levels in the end on a scroll saw pattern. So we haven't done too bad. And that's it. We sanded it down. We've gone all the back there. We've got a small little file of some description. Went around the back, sanded that down. And a good old bit of sandpaper. Probably takes longer to sand the back off than it did to actually route down the stars themselves. But you can see from there, we have a bit more of an effect going down than we did when it was just simply cut out on the same level. And hopefully that'll just stand out a little bit better once we put our finish on and stuff. Regards finishing, literally I was going to spray this all black, or paint it black should I say. I do prefer to paint. But I've been out and treated myself with some nice wood dyes again. So we've got a light teak dye there, which I'm going to do the stars with. And it will spread easy enough. It's just there's so many little inner bits. All these inside here, they're going to be quite, to paint all those, it's going to be too long. This dye stuff, you can put it on and it spreads nicely. So we use the light teak to do all the stars with, and a dark teak, hopefully, to do all the letters. Now, I've used plywood before, and it spreads well enough, so it will be a simple case of putting it on like so. It looks quite dark when you first put it on, and you look a bit panicky and think, oh, that's quite dark, is that? Remember, it's meant to be moon and stars, so it's not going to be too bright, is it? So we'll take our time with this, go all the way around, not forgetting those side walls down there. And we're going to have to use a little brush and just, nice sunny day today, so we'll go out in the sunshine. Basically, do all the lettering with the dark teak and all these stars with the light teak. I'll come back when this is all nicely stained up. So we've done our two stains here. As you can see, it was a light teak for the stars. They come out fine. And we went for the dark teak for the lettering. It certainly goes on a lot easier than trying to paint this with a brush, especially when we've got all these little fiddly bits to get inside. And you can see from that, we've done all the side walls, all the way around the full piece. I'm going to put a little bit on the back for what it was worth. So that's all finished now with regards to the router. Remember, we lowered the stars. At one time, I was going to come back again and lower every other letter. Sometimes you just got to pull back and say enough's enough. So the next stage for me, remember, you could leave this like this now, spray a bit of varnish on, hang that on your wall, and that will be your finished project. But I mentioned earlier, I just want to drop a bit of resin into each one of these stars, just a yellow resin, like a star effect obviously, just to finish it off. Before that though, I want to spray on some varnish. One, because it just gives it a nice shine and it looks finished to me. And we'll try and get a little bit inside these stars, just to seal those side walls. When we could put the resin in, we'll go indoors once it's all been sprayed off. And for me today, I'm literally going to put some sellotape over those and just stick sellotape on there. Normally I would put resin onto each star and stick down a cling film kind of a material, and that will seal nicely. I'm going to take my chance again and just put normal sellotape. I'll show you that in a minute once we go inside. And then basically I'm going to put a thin layer of resin on, and we're going to let it sit overnight just to make sure it's sealed, and then we're going to top them up the next day, just not to the top, just below the top. We'll see how we get on with that one. But before then, a nice spray with the varnish. You know it's coming. 151 today. This will look really nice once it goes on. It just darkens it down and it just finishes off. We'll try and get some of the side walls, but for now we'll just spray it on like so. And I'll let that dry, and I'll come over 2 or 3 times, and hopefully we'll get a better shine on like so. I'll take this outside now the sun's back out again, finish this off, and then the next time we come back we'll be on filling our little stars in with a bit of resin just to finish the project off. Right, there's all our varnish nicely dried. You can more or less just see from that we've got nice enough shine for what we want. And what I've done on this one, it's the first time for me, I've used sellotape, basically nice white tape like so, to seal the back of those stars. On previous projects I've used book covering and that's worked out fine, but I normally do put a bit of resin on the back, brush a bit of resin on like so, and then stick the tape down. But on this occasion, because they're just small little stars, I literally just stuck the tape straight to the plywood. Now I don't know if that's going to seal or not, so what we're going to do is just mix a very small amount of resin. I'm just going to pour a little bit into each one and allow that to go off, and hopefully that will seal the base, and then we can come back tomorrow and then top up the rest of them. Hopefully we won't have any leakages. There's only one way to find out, and that's just to jump in and sort it out. So for the resin, Vista 1 my favourite at the moment, 2-part resin, like most of your resin, well, all your resins. You have A, your resin, B, your hardener. This is a mix by volume, and it's what they call a 1-to-1 mix. So, same amount of A, same amount of B, just mix the two together like so. I use these little party cups, they're fine. They've got these little grooves on the side. And I've literally just gone up 3 on the A, 3 on the B. Obviously we want the same amount. For mixing purposes, just cheap plastic spoons. These are ideal, or the forks, or the knives. But they do have a nice little lip in the back there. And once we've done our mixing, we can just gently put a little bit into each star. And hopefully it will seal the base of the star. Right, I'll mix a bit of resin off camera. We'll add a bit of colour, just a bit of yellow there, just so we can see it. And we'll just gently fill in these, just a little mill to hopefully seal the bottom. Let's mix this resin first. Right, there's all our resin nicely mixed. Remember, we're just mixing enough so that we can seal, hopefully, the bottom of these stars. So I'm just going to pop a bit of lemon yellow, that's all I can find. So I'm going to pop a little bit in here. Doesn't have to be too strong, just enough so we can see the bottom of those stars. And if we're going to get any leakages, like I said previously, I normally put resin on the back of these stars and seal it all in. So I'm really having a go in the dark here just to see. But we are literally just going to put just a minute piece in there just to seal those stars up. Remember, we've got our plastic, the sellotape on the back there. I don't know if you can just get the right light. You can just see it there, look. So we've sealed those stars, hopefully. Got it on a board, just so if there's any leakages, we can lift it out of the way and sort it out. So there's our mix, more or less, somewhere in there. Now I'm just going to pop a bit in, and hopefully it'll find its own way to a certain extent. And as we go around, we can use a little cocktail stick, just help it on its way, just so we make contact with that wood, plywood on the side, like so. Just enough to cover those stars. We don't have to go too crazy. And we'll go around and dab a little bit in each one, like so. And then we come back in 24 hours and hopefully we can top them up. That way, if we have any leakages, we're not going to lose a full star's worth, if that makes sense. Okay, we get the general idea from that. I'll continue till we've filled all these stars in. Right, so we've filled up with that little bit of yellow in there, just enough to hopefully seal the bottom. I don't know if you can see from that. So we'll come back tomorrow and hopefully top these up a little bit more, and we haven't got any leakages from there. Right, it's less than 24 hours later, and I'm pleased to say we've had no issues with no leakage. We can just turn that over. You can just make out there that every star is still intact. So we know the old sellotape there works fine for these smaller projects anyway. So hopefully that's sealed all the bottom now. We'll leave that tape on right till we've filled up the completely and it's all finished with. I just got, because it's such a thin layer in there, I don't want to start peeling this off and pull the resin out with us. And if it's a case of it's still sticky, we can actually go down with a sharp blade of some description and cut out the tape and leave the taping on the back of the star. But we'll see how we go on with it as we progress, should I say. So now, just a simple case, we're going to top these up. You can actually leave those like that, and I bet it up against the window, and it is like a stained glass effect. But it's not one of those, it's going to be a wall hanger. So it's going to be a simple case of filling it up. Now I've mixed the resin exactly the same. Remember, 2 parts, A and B, same amount, mixed together. And we put the remainder of acrylic paint. I managed to find some yellow this time. This is yellow. That's actually lemon. But it doesn't matter, as we're just going to simply go around and top them all up. And hopefully we still won't have any leakages. You see that difference in colour there? That's a lot stronger yellow than before. So we'll just go around nicely, fill these in. Use our little cocktail stick again. We're not going to go right to the top, remember, but we are going to put enough in so it makes one nice little solid star. So I would just say off the top of the stars themselves. So I'll fill the rest of these in, get our little cocktail stick, get all those corners out. And then once we've filled up to what we want, hopefully it's high enough that we'll get our lighter, we'll turn that on and just skim over the top, and that will help all those bubbles disappear. Right, there's our last bit gone in. Now we just get our lighter and just gently skim over the top. You don't want to keep it on too long, obviously, and that'll just help any little bubbles disappear. We can come back in 5 minutes and have another little skim across again. So that's it, that's all we can do for now. We'll put it to one side for a good 24 hours, get a nice cover for it. I'll literally just take this off here, now we know it's sealed, put this on the base and put the wood on top of it, and that's it. We'll come back tomorrow and hopefully this little project will be finished. Right, that's it. This little project is more or less finished. I've left one bit of sellotape on the back. I peeled all that off this morning and that's come off fine. I was quite surprised. I thought that we might have some residue or something left on the back there, but it's come off no problem. And there's our last little piece here to come away. So just take your time, just go gentle like that. There's no big race. And that sellotape, first time I've used that for sealing the wood, that worked fine. Remember, we only put a little bit of resin in afterwards just to seal it. We might have got away with filling it up, but there again it might have just been a bit too much and we might have got leakage. But you can see from that, that's all gone fine. So we can definitely use sellotape in the future. And there's our front section, nicely done. We've had no problem whatsoever. That's turned out fine. Nice little project, that one. So remember, we cut it out on 12mm plywood using a Pegas spiral blade for me. That's just a personal choice. A flat blade, pinless blade. They would have done the same thing with this project, no problem. If you are thinking of buying a scroll saw, get one that takes pinless blades, or you'll have to use these adapter clamps like I have to use here. And just so it wasn't a standard flat piece, we use the router just to lower the stars here. And you might just see, if you look there, it's on 3 different levels. That's the lowest point. Then we came up, and then we came up again to that one. And we did the same on this one here, just slightly. Was it that one? Yes, that's just slightly. Just feel it. Just feel that lip there. So it just makes it a little bit more effort involved. And it makes it a bit more different to everybody else's project that will basically just cut out the template itself. So we lowered that with the router, using our end milling bits. They work fine as well. We did have the one issue, if you remember, with a little section break off there, but we managed to go down a little bit lower and we saved the day and we had no issues with that little star there. And then we stained it. I do find staining a lot easier than painting or spraying. Remember, you've got to get inside all these letters and all these little sections. So staining was the way for us on this one. Dark teak for all the lettering, that comes out really good, especially when you get that varnish on. And a light teak there just for the stars themselves, just to break it up a bit, so it's just not one of the same colour. And to get that lovely shine, which I use on all my projects, nice bit of varnish to finish that bit off. And we can see from that the different colours in the staining and that lovely shine we've got there. That's near enough for me. Remember, these are indoor projects, 1 because of the plywood, and 2 because of your resin. If this was to go outside, come the sunshine, the UV light, that will fade that colour in time. So indoor projects with your resin, especially with this type of resin anyway. And for the resin itself, Vista one at the moment in time, one of my favourites, and we mix that with cheap acrylic paints to get our nice colours here. And that's it. This little project is finished, and it measures in at 11 inches by 11 inches, like I say, cut out on 12mm plywood. Now you could put this onto a backer if you wanted to. Place a backer underneath and literally cut round it, get the little washer technique, make a little frame all the way around. I've actually put this on the wall, and I've noticed a little pin nail. If it goes in there, that gap there between the V and the E, that just hangs perfectly straight against the wall, allowing the colour of the wall to come through with the project. And that's it. This little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.